So the next thing we want to do is get our graph over onto its own piece of paper and put in an aim line, which we'll get to in a minute. As you can see with our graph currently, we need to fix some things, but also we're not going to be able to project unless we get more dates on here. So I'm just going to click on my graph so that the highlight turns blue, and I can just hit delete to get rid of that. The other thing to do would be to hit your undo button. Now, as I mentioned before, we want to get at least 9 weeks of data, so I'm just going to put in placeholder dates for now and just put in one entry per week to get us out to 9 weeks. Alright, so I've gone ahead and entered in dates. I've gone a little further. I've put in a couple that I can do daily, off into weekly. So now I'm going to go ahead and click on A1. And I wanted to show you, I am off screen now, so just holding down your shift key won't work until you actually scroll your slide bar over. So I'm going to go over to my last column. Now remember, I am going to hold down my shift key and click on, this was my baseline line, so I'm going to click on all the way over here. So I'm at Z2. Now I'm going to hit my line chart, go ahead and get my marked line, and it kind of crams everything in here, and that's fine. This will give us a ways to predict. Now, the next thing we want to do is to move our chart. So I am going to come up here to Chart and click on Move Chart, and I want it in its own sheet. And it's important that we are pretty descriptive, so I'm going to say engaged classroom behavior. Alright, so as I go ahead and throw that, it will put it in its own sheet. Now I haven't lost my raw data. In fact, if you look down here, I can click on sheet 1 and there it is again. So I'm coming back here now, and things look really good, but I need to fix something pretty quickly, and that is I need this to go all the way up to 100%. So I'm going to click anywhere on the screen. You can see it's highlighted now in a box. I'm going to right click it, and I am going to, there we go, format access. Okay. Now as I do that, I'm going to make sure it says scale up here, and I'm going to put my maximum up at 100%. And you'll see that that now gives me a better idea of what this looks like. The next thing you want to do is change the axis down here as well. So just highlight it so the box appears, right click, and I'm going to format this axis. Now it's important here that I don't let it stay on automatic, because especially when you're not very consistent, as you should be with taking data, it just predicts and it puts down what it thinks you took data on. So I'm going to put text, and that way it's entering in exactly the dates I put on my raw sheet. All right. So that gives you a graph that looks like this. And now it's time to put in our aim line. So how I'm going to get an aim line is I'm going to make sure my Excel sheet is showing up. If I go into Insert and Picture, I'm going to pick out a shape, and it is just a simple line. So I'm going to grab this little guy over here, and if I click on it, I get a little plus right here. I'm going to connect it to my final baseline point and then bring it up. My 9th week is this right here, October 29th. And I said my goal was going to be at 80% like the rest of the students as I was taking baseline. So I'm holding down my keypad, and now I'm going to let go, and right there it dropped my line. So I am going to click on that and also change the color so that it stands out. Now what that does for me is it helps predict out at what point in time we need to be improving to determine if we have got the right intervention for this job. Now, in the next segment, we're going to now talk about interventions and decision making, but this gets us a good start with baseline to predict out what we should be looking at from here.